Gang, what is up? Today we're going to be talking about the 4 best and probably easiest ways for you to be able to share your landscape images on Instagram. We as photographers want to share our photos and ideas with the world, and the best place for us to do that at the moment is still Instagram. But as we know, Instagram is optimized for how we use our phones, i.e. portrait, tall, narrow images that take up a lot of space on your phone. And as photographers, we also want to grow our channels. We want to get our images out there. And the best way to do that is to post the most interesting and engaging content that we can. And unfortunately, posting landscape images just doesn't take up that much space on someone's phone compared to a portrait image. And for that reason, we then start to meander down the route of only taking vertical images or only sharing vertical images. And I find that very creatively stifling. So, let's get into it. So the first method that we've got today is a super simple app called Darkroom. You can either have it on your phone or you can have it on your iPad. And once you click into it, it's got a list of a bunch of different photos, all of the ones that are in my recent photos, I guess. And you click into one that you want to turn into a 4x5 image. So now that we're here, literally click down here on this little borders thing, comes up with this menu, and boom. You can click this little button and it turns it into a 4x5 post. And you can use this on literally any format of photo. And what's also really cool is you can then adjust the border. You can have no border, you can have a huge border, but I personally like to set mine to 10. And this is consistent every time I open up the app. And the reason for setting it to 10 is it then means that every time I'm exporting a landscape image in this format, it is uniform. So that means anytime someone comes onto my feed, it is always the same. And so from here, click export. I like to save a copy and boom, it's done. It is so simple, so easy to use, it's minimum effort. And if you just want to post your landscape images, highly recommend it. We're now going into the second method, and this is what I like to call the triple stack or double stack. And it's much more creatively freeing. It's slightly more complex, but not by much. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Lightroom, and we're going to use the most basic portions of Photoshop. Sometimes when you've taken a photo, you're like, this looks so much better, super wide. And as you can see here, I've got an image which is a super wide aspect ratio. I've cropped in massively on this image. And this aspect ratio is 5:12 if we look up here. And the reason for that is that you can stack 3 of these 5:12 images on top of each other to create one tall 4x5 image. And so let's say we want to tell a story and we're like, telling a story about this building in particular. And I really like this image as well when my computer finally loads it. There you go, this image. And I also like this image. And I want to combine all 3. What we can do is we can do a simple export. Here it is, export them. And then once they're exported, we've got our images up here, and then we can go into Photoshop. And from here, create a 4x5. I like to use a 300 ppi because someone once told me to. So now we have a 4x5 image. And what we can do is we can drag all of these images into this frame, and we can place them, and boom, we now have a 4x5 image created out of these landscape images. And this is so much fun because now we can play around with the different orders. We can then start thinking about, okay, maybe the tones of this and that are more similar, perhaps they should go together. And then this acts as a hard buffer. It's so much fun to explore and to play. And so sometimes you've shot something in the normal aspect ratios that's come straight off your DSLR or mirrorless camera, and you're like, I really like this image, but I think 2 images pair together really nicely. What you can do is you can crop the images in a 16:10 aspect ratio. And as you can see here, it's literally just shaved off the very top and bottom of the frame. And then you can export the images that you think work well together. And now if you go into Photoshop, you can see that these 2 images will fit together perfectly and create, boom, a 4x5 image. So we are able to tell more story within a single frame. We are able to tell different perspectives, different timelines by having the ability to stack images. So this is a very fun way that I like to share multiple images in a single frame, which is still Super simple and super easy. So now we're on to the third method, and you can export your photos in whatever way you want. Whether that's 16 by 9, whether that's 1 by 1, whether that's 5 by 4, chunky 4 by 5. You can use any single format because we are going to get spicy in Photoshop X Games mode. And the reason why I love this so much is you are able to share a whole bunch of images in a really creative way. And you're able to present your ideas as a collection. And this is almost like a mini zine or zine or however you say it. It's so much fun because you can start playing with design, you can start playing with text, you can start playing and mismatching and just having a great time with the content that you're producing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up this file, and this is the master file. This is the wide boy, and you can either download it at the buymeacoffee.com link. It's free, don't have to give me any money, it's just the easiest way for me to share stuff like this. Or you can create your own by clicking on the other article in the description. So what I've got here is a super wide boy canvas. You've got to think of it like 10 consecutive images. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And each of these different sections is a 4 by 5 Instagram post. So it's like a carousel going from left to right, 1, 2, 3. Each blue line is where the image is going to get sliced. So bear that in mind when you're placing your images into your carousel. And what's absolutely amazing about this is you can place your images absolutely wherever you like. You can place them like this, you can have them crossing over lines, you can have them small like this, you can have them doing whatever you want. And so now that I've got a very, very rough carousel, what we need to do is we need to go up to here, File, Export, and instead of the usual export as settings, we need to save for web brackets legacy. Once we click in here, we then need to set the export mode here to maximum and then hit save. And what happens is it will tell us up here what is going to save as. And click boom. And now that we've saved for web, we have got all of these different images. And they are all 4 by 5 optimized, sliced in the right place, so you can bring them into the Instagram app and post them in the right sequence. They're all labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, so you can't get it wrong. And yeah, this is the most fun and creative way for you to share your landscape images on Instagram. Some important considerations to have when you're doing this is your first image should tend to be a full image, or an image like this, created in darkroom. And so the reason for that is because you want to have a whole frame as your main image, because that is going to sit on your feed. Whereas if you posted something like this, where you've got half the frame missing, it's not as aesthetic. And if that's going to be the thing that people flick through on your feed, you don't want that to be a visual representation of your work. And finally, don't care too much. It's all fun, it's all games. Like, no one really cares that much about the artwork that we create. Even if you saw Peter McKinnon posting a carousel that didn't work, do you care? Do you remember? No? Because no one really cares. And that should be a freeing thing for you to hear. And now finally, we're on the fourth method, which is being a true alpha photographer and just posting wide images. I see Joe Greer, one of my favourite photographers, he always does this, just posts wide images, because it's better to share your images than it is to have your images sat on a hard drive waiting for the perfect opportunity to post. He is a fantastic example of someone that just gets his content out there. And so on that note, be free, be creative, share your wide images, tag me in ones that you've used any of these examples in, and yeah, until next time.